Welcome back to the ReaderHouse Author Roundtable. How you doing? I'm Alice Stockton Rossini. Cameron Pine writes books in his head. He'll explain in a minute. But We Are Three Women, Hear Us Shout is his first published book. It's about kidnapped children, a pedophile, human trafficking, and three brave women. Cameron also has some really good advice for those of you in the process of writing or thinking about writing a book. So let's get started. You've got a great pen name to boot, Cameron.
Cameron is my middle name.
Okay.
And I have 5 acres of pine trees. So that's how I came up with the name.
Where do you have 5 acres of pine trees?
I live in Georgia, central Georgia.
Oh, what do you do there?
I'm retired.
Yeah, what are you retired from?
My last job was 15 years as a insurance adjuster. And so I often tell the story that I had to drive around the Southeast a lot during my job. And to occupy my mind, I would write books in my head. And so this is the first book that I wrote in my head, or at least, good portions of it, and put it to paper once I retired.
Is it based on anything that really happened?
It's based on stories I've read about, but one segment of it is based on the kidnappers capturing a busload of students while the bus was stopped at a set of train tracks, which is required by federal law. And in my driving around, I often, many times, got stopped behind a school bus and wondered, what if someone were to jump on the bus while the doors were open and take over the bus? And that's actually how the story got started.
What did you come up with?
The book is really about women's rights. It starts out with a school teacher, a school advisor, photographing both girls and boys in school while they were in detention. And he was doing it for sexual pleasure.
Oh, geez.
And so there were 3 women, hence the name of the book, but there were 3 women who graduated from this school and went through this. And they wanted to make a change, make a difference, and they didn't know how to get the attention of the authorities. And so they kidnapped a school bus. And the rest of the story goes from there.
Just to get attention?
Yes. Well, in today's world, it's very hard for a woman or even a man sometimes to get the attention of authorities in a way that can change the laws to where things are safe and proper. In schools today, you still read about many tragedies of kids being abused and so forth, and at homes as well. So these 3 girls thought they could make a difference by getting authorities to change the laws, and they followed their heart.
Well, they got attention from an FBI special agent, according to your synopsis.
That is correct. And and Agent Jessica Bishop went after them with a fury to free them. The kids were taken to a summer camp in the mountains that was abandoned, and they were kept there, captured for several days. And one of the mothers of the students was on the bus at the time it was kidnapped, and she was such a diminutive of stature that she passed for a student. And but she was able to run away and notify the authorities as to where the children were being held, and thus the rescue.
But these 3 women, they broke the law hoping to bring attention to what was going on at this school.
That is correct. Yes.
These kids must have been scared out of their wits.
Yes, for some of them. For others, they thought of it as kind of a vacay or a camping trip or something. The women were good about attending to their needs, and so it was back and forth, and that was some of the challenge of writing the book, of putting myself in the place of the kids as well as in the place of the 3 women. And that presented some challenges in the writing, but hopefully it comes across and the reader will enjoy it.
So we find out at the end if they ultimately get what they wanted, and that was attention on this pedophile who was still in their school and bringing him to justice.
That's right. And there was actually a side issue going on. He was involved, this same guy was involved in kidnapping a single girl for the purposes of selling her on the sex trafficking market. And so, the FBI agent was able to solve both crimes, the kidnapping as well as this the kidnapping of the one person at the same time. And so it gets a little bit deeper than just the one issue.
Some many layers here, then.
Yes, that's a good way of putting it.
So where do you go from here?
My wife is a big help there. She has told everybody in our town about it, and I have purchased several books to hand out and pass the word. I do book signings and so forth. But my publisher has several things lined up, including social media and online introductions and so forth, and like this interview that we're doing right now. So quite a list of like 30 different ventures of marketing. But for myself, I'm pushing it everywhere I can. I have cards printed with the name Cameron Pine on it, and I hand those out to, you'd be amazed. I meet somebody at church, or I meet somebody in the store, and I'll get to talking, and I hand them a card, and if they seem genuinely interested, I will offer to give them a free book, a signed book. And so that's been a lot of fun. We actually had a book signing party scheduled for the date of my wife and I's 50th wedding anniversary back in January, but there was a storm that came through, and it was too cold, and we had 50 people lined up to come for a book signing. I was going to give out free books and sign them as part of the celebration party, and unfortunately we had to cancel. So now we're contacting those same 50 people and offering a signed book for them to either pick up or us to deliver it to them.
Oh, so, no, you should still have a party so you can talk about the book and get people talking about the bigger issues that are involved in this book.
That's true.
I mean,
yes,
geez, you've got pedophile, you got human trafficking. I mean, a lot of big issues, Any book clubs in your town?
Yes, there is one. They actually sponsor it. The name of it's from a bookstore that it's sponsored, and it's the name of the store is called The Plot Twist, which I love. And so we're talking with them as well. And but I have a cousin who is part of a book club up in New Jersey. I'm working with her, sent her some books to do whatever they do. I've never been into a book club meeting, to be honest. I think they supposedly read the story and then they debate it and that kind of thing. So I've sent them some books so that they can do that. And yes, I am working on reaching out to book clubs as well.
Great. You going to keep writing?
I actually the same month, December of 25, my second book was published, just a few weeks behind this one. My third book I just sent to I don't know if you know them, Kirkus Reviews. They're going to help me do a special editing and language enhancement on the third book.
Okay.
And I am 20, let me see, I have a number here. I'm 25,000 words into my fourth book.
Good for you, man. You're on a roll.
And Jessica Bishop appears in 3 of the books.
Oh.
And I have a beta group. I don't know if that other authors do that, but I have what I call a beta group of friends who, when I've got a rough manuscript, I have my beta group read it, and they give back suggestions and so forth. One of my beta group is a lifelong school teacher, and but once I get the beta group back, then I go to a professional publisher to do it. And so Yeah, well, we enjoy the writing.
Cameron, you're on the ReaderHouse Author Roundtable. We're always talking, always trying to get ideas out to authors. What should they do? How should they promote their book? How do they draw attention to it? How can they become better writers? And that is something I think most people don't do, but more people should do. Have a trusted group of people who won't hurt your feelings if they criticize what you've written or offer some suggestions, but kind of take the process a little slower and get that feedback. That's a great idea. That beta group is a great idea, and that's a great resource for our listeners, people who are listening right now. So,
yes, my wife, I gave her the first 10 chapters of the fourth book, and she immediately pointed out where my first opening chapter was in the wrong place, and so I spent some time, changing that. So very early on, my beta group was able to get the book redirected, and now it reads so much better. So it is important to consider that.
Yeah. All right. You are Cameron Pine. We are three women. Hear us shout. Thanks so much for talking to me. I think I'll be talking to you again.
I look forward to it. Thank you so much.
Bill Loughrey has published a number of articles in magazines and newspapers. He's also written a book entitled A History of the United States, Political Will Dominating Force in American History. Today, we're talking about his latest book entitled Charles Evans Hughes, Leadership at America's Crossroads. Now, he's probably a man you've never heard of, but I think, Bill, listeners will understand why you wrote about this man after you tell us a little bit about your background.
Oh, I had a varied, long career. I started off working on the Watergate reforms. I then was basically ran the Federal Election Commission and was chief of staff to Senator Arlen Specter, all before I was 30. Then I was in the private sector where I did a number of startups and was a senior executive at a major technology company called Scientific Atlanta. And then I did some nonprofit work and a lot of writing.
You chose to write a biography of Charles Evans Hughes, a guy.
Yes, I did.
A guy most probably don't even realize he was a chief justice, right, of the U.S.
Yes, and he had, because he was at a crucial juncture, he had more impact on American civilization than any political figure since George Washington. He was the greatest Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, one of the best Secretaries of State, and the most effective governor New York ever had. An amazing distinction given that a Rockefeller and two Roosevelts served in that office. Hughes embodied all the qualities we claim to value most in our leaders: vision, energy, integrity, and extraordinary intellect.
No better time than to hear about a guy like this.
That's absolutely correct. We're in a polarized political environment with two sides not communicating with each other, and people are concerned about the direction of the country. Most Americans believe the nation is going off track and are looking for leadership.
When did you start writing this book?
Well, it was 10 years of research, writing, and editing. And I spent a good deal of that time making the book accessible to the general reader.
There's a long list of accomplishments. And I just wonder, does any one of them stand out for you?
Well, he had an extensive background. He impacted on all aspects of American politics 100 years ago. But what distinguishes him is he was far ahead of his time by turning the Supreme Court around on civil rights and focusing on making civil liberties the focus of the Supreme Court.
Give me a little background on that. When you introduce that in your book, you tell us where we were before that, correct?
Well, basically, the Supreme Court was comprised of people who were basically racist or white supremacists. And there was 100 years of decisions from Dred Scott on that basically didn't enforce three constitutional amendments: the only changes to the Constitution in 100 years. And Hughes, throughout his 2 terms on the Supreme Court, at every turn, tried to get the court to turn around on that issue. And he largely succeeded. It took years and it took another generation, but Hughes was the catalyst to turning this country around on civil rights. And he doesn't get any credit.
Now, do you contrast what you've researched about him with what's going on now? Do you express concerns that you have for the U.S. moving forward, or do you pretty much just stick to his life?
Well, basically, it's the thread throughout the book is here is a guy who embodied all of the things we want in a leadership. As I vision, energy, integrity, and extraordinary intellect. And this are the qualities we need in our leadership. It's woven throughout the book.
Would you say that that is something we want today?
Well, everybody on both sides can agree on the need for better leadership and getting the country on track. They don't agree on basically anything else, but that is a common concern, a common interest. And if we don't drive home the things that we have a consensus on, we're going to go even more off track. And the consequences are so dire you don't even want to conceive or talk about.
But it seems that everyone has a different idea of who embodies those very qualities.
Both sides believe that their leadership is the right for this country. And they both can't be right. It's sort of like Lincoln said, both sides read the same Bible and come to the directly different conclusions. My book comes to a different conclusion and says we need somebody like Hughes who can do that. And it sets forth a whole formula for how we can change our media culture and our political culture to come to a better form of governance that moves the country forward.
So right now I happen to be reading Bully Pulpit, and it's about Theodore Roosevelt and William Howard Taft. And, you know, reading books about past presidents and realizing the ethics and moral convictions they had about things like breaking up the very wealthy conglomerates that were running the railroads and, you know, all of our industries in the United States, civil liberties. These were things that meant something to them. And I'm getting the feeling that we've lost our moral convictions in the Congress, in our leaders. It's almost as if they're interested in following whatever their party is following. That's what they're following. And you don't know how they really feel. Like, this man was a man of moral convictions.
He was.
Whether you agreed with him or not. Correct.
Yeah, Hughes was definitely one who was driven by his upbringing and his parents, who he was the only person to serve as Supreme Court justice, who was an only child. And he would have been the only one as president. But certainly the Bully Pulpit was an age of the golden age of journalism, which was short-circuited by World War I and Woodrow Wilson. And underlying Hughes's governance was an unbelievable set of moral values that drove all of the decisions he made. And in the media culture we have today, the media doesn't have any of those values, or has very few of those values. They've gone off track because it's now ideology, not what's in the public good. And here was a public official who acted at every turn of his career for the public good.
To give me a little bit about his background.
Well, Hughes was born in my hometown of Glens Falls, New York, and his two parents basically were very religious, and his father was a minister, and he was a child prodigy. He was reading Shakespeare and the whole Bible by the time he was 10. He basically was graduated from high school, and he couldn't even attend college because he was so young. He then graduated at the youngest age from Columbia, the top of his class in law school, and he was a senior partner at a major law firm by the time he was 25, and then spent 20 years practicing law before he skyrocketed into national fame for 2 investigations that he conducted. And he did those in a very nonpartisan, effective manner.
And they were?
They were the investigation of the gas utilities industry, which involved a lot in the oil and gas industry, and the life insurance industry, which was really the source of income for many children orphans and women, as well as Civil War veterans.
So do you think that, when people hear Charles Evans Hughes, that it rings a bell?
Well, that's the purpose of this book, to get his figure out there. And interestingly, there were no biographies of him for 75 years, and there were 5 written in the last year. And interestingly, the one that I've written has been called excellent by the historian who wrote the best description of the Hughes Court, and that's a very a good book on what Hughes did as in his term as Chief Justice.
5 books have been written about him now, and what sets yours apart?
Well, mine was thoroughly researched for 10 years, and I relied extensively on my background, where by the age of 30, I had worked on the Watergate reforms. I was one of the first people to know Nixon was going to resign. I ran the Federal Election Commission for 5 years as one of the key staff members. We never had a partisan vote. And since then, I've worked extensively in the private sector and the nonprofit sector. So I understand the broad array of American civilization.
So now what's next for your book? Are you going to go out and talk about it?
Well, we have both a communications and social media strategy where we're going to do the traditional book signings. We're going to be at events, and we're going to also be on the traditional media. But we're also going to do social media, whether it's Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, the many different varieties that now get most of people's attention.
Okay. What's next for you?
Well, I'm going to keep writing, but I'm going to focus on marketing my book, and I'm also going to finish my draft book on the corruption in the judicial system, which is the flip side of Hughes, which he did everything for the public good. And as you mentioned, our existing judicial system is seriously off track. From the Supreme Court down to the lowest local court, there is pay for play, and there's not a focus on being a judge and being impartial towards people's concerns.
What's your biggest concern, Bill, if you don't mind me asking, for our country? What do you see happening?
Well, our country is seriously off track because we've abused the technology that's been developed. And in this case, we have 2 political sides that have taken the internet browser and the internet, and they basically communicate with people who have the same values and attitudes, and they don't listen to the other side. And we had the Civil War. The first Civil War was the worst event in our national history when you look at the number of people died, as many as in all the other wars, and the extensive damage to our entire property and political system. And if we don't find a way to get past this division in our country, then not only will the United States fall, the entire globe will be at risk. Just look at what happened in World War II. The United States had to come in and rescue the entire world from the Axis powers.
Oh, Bill. Can I ask you quickly, why Page Publishing?
I chose them because they had a continued interest in my project, and they seem to provide a wide range of services. And Chuck there kept calling me and was interested, and they're really, I really thought they were the best fit for my project.
All right. Thank you so much. Bill Loughrey, author of Charles Evan Hughes, Leadership at America's Crossroads.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Robby Barbarian hopes his book, Chicken Legs and Feet, is the first of many children's books to come. I caught up with him on a cool spring day in South Carolina. What are you doing outside?
I love nature.
Me too.
And even though it's a cold morning, I was out here looking at the incoming spring season and listening to the sound of the birds and trying at the same time to avoid all the pollen.
I can hear the birds.
Yeah.
Behind you, and I know what you're talking about when it comes to pollen.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I'm wearing a mask right now while I'm out here. But you know, I come out whether it's on a beautiful morning like this, cool, brisk morning like this, or if it's raining, I will actually put my raincoat on and come out, and it opens up my mind and a lot of ideas flow.
Where are you?
I'm in Hobgood, North Carolina. Yeah. But our definition of cold is different from your definition of cold up in New York.
All right, you tell me what cold is right now.
Cold for us is 60 degrees.
Oh, jeez. I'd pay for 60 degrees right now. You're funny, Robby. Robby, what do you do there, sir?
I'm actually retired and disabled.
What are you retired from?
What did I do?
Yeah.
I actually worked with a pest control company for 25 years. I was a home inspector, and before that, I was in the Marine Corps.
Thank you for your service.
Yeah.
And you wound up with cancer.
I ended up with cancer from exposure at Camp Lejeune for the first 4 years that I was there. I spent 4 years there, then I re-enlisted.
What were you exposed to at Camp Lejeune?
PCE and TCE. The water was toxic, and they knew it was toxic since 1953. And there are like 400,000 Marines and sailors that have, and some Army that have come through Camp Lejeune, and they, were all drinking it, bathing in it, training in it, you name it. Anything that you can do with water, we were exposed to it.
I'm sorry.
And it was so toxic that you couldn't drink a glass of water without actually seeing some of the toxins that were in it. And so, you got a lot of Marines who have already died. And the government does what the government does. They delay. We can send billions of dollars to assist in wars, but we have to debate on taking care of the veterans that we send to war. So that blows my mind, And we're just a military family.
Geez, when did you start writing?
I started writing in 1969.
What happened in 1969?
There was this girl. I was in the second grade. There was this girl that I had a crush on, and neither one of us, knew anything about love because I was 7 and she was 7, but I wanted to just touch her hand every chance I got. So every time she would sit down somewhere, I would try to get a chair right next to her so that I can accidentally touch her hand. And I wrote her a little poem, and it started from there. And I started reading Henry Wadsworth Longfellow and all of the Grimm. And I just started writing poetry. And while I didn't play basketball because I was ashamed of my legs, which made, which is the reason for the book, Chicken Legs and Feet.
What's wrong with your legs? Are they thin?
I had chicken legs when I was growing up because we were so poor that we were lucky if we got something to eat twice a week. Every once in a while, my mother would catch a chicken that strayed from somebody else's yard, and she would cut its head off, and that would be breakfast, lunch, and dinner. As a matter of fact, there was no such thing as breakfast, lunch, and dinner. There was just eat. And it was an amazing time at the same time because everyone was poor. I was born in Scotland Neck, North Carolina, right down the road from here. And everyone, including my mother had 11 children. The lady across the street who sold corn liquor, she had 23 children by the same man.
Oh
and
God. Oh, jeez. Oh, my
yeah,
God. I'm in pain thinking about that.
yeah, which might explain why he died early. But then the people behind us, the Joneses, they had 9. And basically, there was no one on 903 that didn't have more than 8 children or more. And you had a lot to draw from as far as it goes when it comes to writing. There's a lot to draw from. And farm animals and things that come with growing up in the South. The segregation for us didn't end in Scotland Neck until, let's see, I came out of boot camp in 82, and there was this unwritten rule where this restaurant in Scotland Neck, blacks couldn't enter into that restaurant, but they could cook in there, but they couldn't enter in. If they wanted something to eat from there, you had to go into the alley and they would bring it out to you. But there was no written rule. It was so ingrained. It was so instilled in everyone that, you just knew that you weren't supposed to go in there. And once people finally started going in there in 83, the place closed, shut down. That's
Pathetic.
Yeah.
So your children's book, what happens to this kid? He's going into school. He's going into kindergarten. He's embarrassed.
Yes. From the moment he got up that morning, it was his first day of school. And he looked in the mirror, and for the first time, it dawned on him that other kids would really see what he looked like. And so he started to come up with different ways to hide it. And he finally settled on the boots and the fishing trousers and a coat and rain hat. And so he goes and gets on the bus, and it's raining. And so he notices that the rest of the kids have their rain suits on. So he feels comfortable. And his comfort deteriorated when the bus came up into the parking lot of the school. And he was the last one to get off the bus because he realized that once he got inside the building and inside the classroom, that he was going to have to, take off the rain suit. And the closer he got to the homeroom door, the more nervous he became. But when he slowly opened the classroom door, what he saw changed everything. As a matter of fact, you can say that he was relieved, because it was then that he saw one little girl with alligator skin, one little boy with a head like a cow, and his teacher, who had the nose of an anteater, offered him a seat. And he realized that everyone is different in their own way. And that's what makes each one of us special. So one little boy in my class, this is a true story. One little boy in my class, he had big ears. His name was Turner White, and he became a pastor. And Turner had big ears, and people used to tease him about his big ears, but his father had big ears, and he looked like his father looked like a gremlin. But he was one of the nicest people you'd ever want to meet. And so I started thinking about, all of the children that had, certain things that were wrong, that people thought were wrong. And I started coming up with these ideas on how to express how I felt. And I wrote it, and I was in competition with my brother Roderick, who died in 2012. We used to do illustrations, and that's where I picked up the whole art thing. Plus, I used to do the art numbers, the numbers by art, the art by numbers. And me and my brother used to draw the pirate and the duck and all that used to come in the mail. But that's how that came about.
Robby, I love it, and it's just your first children's book. You have more, correct?
Yes, Sam the Gold Miner. This year, I expect to publish another 3.
How are you telling people about your books? You're a great storyteller, Robby.
I am way out there. I'm on YouTube. I'm on Facebook. I have 1.7 million views on TikTok alone. And I'm trying to get a book signing at a Books A Million right down the road.
There you go.
I want my books in the brick and mortar. People are buying them because they're selling out on Amazon and Books A Million and Barnes & Noble.
Well, that's great. Listen, thanks for talking to me.
So this was an interview?
Yes.
Oh, my God, you caught me in my natural.
I'm so glad. You were great. So nice to meet you, Robby. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Robby Barbarian, author of Chicken Legs and Feet. Christopher David James has completed a lifelong goal: publication of his book, A Pirate's Life for Me, A Pirate's Life Indeed. Christopher, when did this journey begin?
Oh, my Lord. The book in particular, I started in 1997. I worked on it for 30 years. And if you were to ask me where I came up with the idea, it's very hard. Where does any, author come up with an idea? Again, this is my debut book. And I got to tell you something. I put it on the shelf many, many times. I went through 4 literal typewriters with the ribbon. I went through 3 computers. That's how much I typed. The book is 978 pages. And, you know, I sat down in 1997 and I came up with this idea. I mean, what I tried to bring into the book was what I grew up with. I was fans of Abbott and Costello. I was fans of pirate movies, Errol Flynn, Robin Hood. And I sat down and I wrote this preliminary story out of a young boy who all he wants to do is be a pirate. I mean, and he's kind of fashioned after myself because that's what I would want to do if I was in the year 17, 18. And it just grew into what it is now. And I took the way I wanted to do the book, and it just happened to come out like this. It's, like I said, 978 pages. I wasn't going to compromise. What is in the book needs to be in the book. Billy Joel once said that he wrote songs for himself, and now I know what he means. It's not in a selfish sense. It's the fact that I wasn't going to compromise one single word. I wanted to put what was in my head into the book. And different things came out at different times over 30 years. And that's what it is. I didn't actually write the book to sell books, but I hear it's doing quite well. And I think what people like about it is that it's like it goes back to Robert Louis Stevenson, you know, the epics of the 1800s. And then that's what people are saying in their trade catalogs, which I'm very humbled to even hear such a thing.
Tell me about your main character, Thomas Patch.
The title for the book was originally The Adventures of Thomas Patch, and I changed it to A Pirate's Life for Me, A Pirate's Life Indeed, which is about this 9-year-old boy's journey to find Blackbeard's lost treasure of gold. And it's just a name I like, just like the name I chose for myself, my pen name. I always said if I had a son, I would name him Christopher James. So that's where that came up from. Christopher James is the name I would have chosen for my son if I could ever find a wife.
You need a wife? You want me to put that out there? You want to put that?
Please.
Come on.
No, yeah, don't.
Come on down. How old were you when you started writing this book?
Oh, my God. I'm going to be 59, so take off 30 years.
Oh, okay. So you weren't exactly a child at that point.
No, but I actually fashioned the character after what I would want to do if I lived in 1718. And so it's just like I said, I used to love the old pirate movies. Abbott and Costello meets Captain Kidd. There are characters in the book that I fashioned after Abbott and Costello to pay homage to them because that's what I grew up with. What I wanted to do with the book was take what's going on today, from politics to such as Abbott and Costello, Seinfeld. I wanted to bring it all into the year 1718, and that's exactly what I did, maintaining the romance of piracy, if you could phrase it like that, because Blackbeard's in the book. You know, I created over 25 characters that all have speaking voices. It's very descriptive, very narrative for a reason. What I wanted to do was, if you closed your eyes and somebody read to you, I want you to feel like you're actually tagging along with Thomas Patch as he goes and tries to look for Blackbeard's, lost treasure of gold. And I think I hit it on the mark, hopefully, because I've gotten some nice comments from people about that they feel like they're actually part of it. And what I had the editors do, I had to make like maps. There are clues throughout the book that help lead Thomas Patch to Blackbeard's lost treasure of gold. One clue is like a domino effect. And what makes this book, I think, special, and I thank the publisher, my coordinator, Leanna Lewis, because she's part of this. She helped me bring my vision, got my vision out there into a book, from the cover, which I designed, to whatever's in the book. I've got songs in the book. I've got poems that are put on like maps, like with symbols and stuff. So as Thomas Patch is reading the clue, which is a rhyme, and it could be some of these rhymes are like 25 lines, and that in itself took a while. It makes the person reading the book think that they're actually standing there as Thomas Patch is reading this clue on this makeshift pirate map as it goes through the book. So there are a lot of things in there that are extremely special. And again, it's not special because I wrote it. It's just special because it all comes together. It just flows beautifully, and I'm very happy with it. I'm actually quite pleased with it.
You have so many characters. You
I
got
do.
Tubby the talking sea turtle, Simon who loves to surf and drink, Pirate Pop Cola, that's what he drinks. The pirate speaks 7 languages. Wellington, Simon's trusted guardian, crotchety and cranky old crow named Robert. Who's your favorite? Who stands
That's a
out for
good.
you?
That's a great question. My favorite. It's hard to say. I think Birdie's a great character. Putting Birdie aside, I love Sticks and Tubby, who I fashioned after Abbott and Costello. Those are 2 wonderful characters. Simon, the talking sea turtle, who speaks 7 languages, and in the book, I literally have him speak in many languages. And there's a chapter basically that actually takes care of all that, or brings that to light. And it's hard to say who's my favorite. I love them all. And I actually, I lost my mom, which is hard to talk about, in 2014, my father, and I put it on the shelf for many, many years. And I lost my creativity. And this is going to sound crazy to you, but I've owed it to them, the characters that I created, to, to kind of bring them to light.
Ah.
So I'm very, 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 I get emotional, so I got to shut up. But I'm very proud of all the characters, believe it or not. And I know it sounds crazy. They're fictitious. They're not real. But I wanted to bring them light, and I wanted people to enjoy every single one of them.
They're real to you, and you've paid
Yes,
a
they are.
beautiful tribute to people that you loved. And when I read your synopsis, I am drawn in by the descriptions of your characters, the depth of your story. You say people are already reacting to it. How are they finding out about it?
That's a good question. I know for a debut book, it's extremely rare. I'm on over 20 different sites, global. I'm in France, I'm in England, I'm in Ireland, I'm in Scotland, I'm in India. If you go on Google AI, in India alone, there's 989 positive reviews. It's got a 4.4 star rating. Now, again, I sometimes I take this with a grain of salt because you don't know what is true. From what I heard, the book is #1 in its children's maritime pirate genre in Singapore, in the US, in the UK, in India, in Canada. Now, I don't know if this is true or not, but this is what Google is telling me. Now, people have told me not to believe Google AI, but I got to tell you, every Google AI I talk to is coming up with the same thing. I'm closely approaching the top 100 in each of those countries. Could it be true? I'd fall over. And this is the thing I want people to know. I just wanted, if one person liked what I did, the writing, and loved the characters, then I'm blessed. What I would like to do, I know it's nominated for 3 awards. If it takes off like it does, I would love to do a book tour through England. I would love to do a book tour through Australia and meet the people and thank them specifically for even liking the book. I would love to talk to people.
Well, why don't you start a little bit closer to home? The local libraries, bookstores. You might not have to get on a plane. You are Christopher David James, author of A Pirate's Life for Me, A Pirate's Life Indeed. Thank you so much.
No, I thank you. Where exactly is this your write-up going to be?
No write-up, but you are a guest on the ReaderHouse Author Roundtable podcast, and you can request a copy of our interview. And you can use that when you send an email to your local library and say, hey, here's me being interviewed on a podcast. You interested in me coming in and talking to some kids during story time?
Thank you for your kindness and giving me the time. I really appreciate it.
You got it. You have a great day. Michael Davis teaches social studies to 6th graders. He started writing Kingston the Seal about a year ago after he had a dream. So tell me about this dream, Michael.
So it's kind of a funny story. It's all based on a dream that where I was on a walk and I came across a random seal, and he had a collar around his neck saying, "If lost, return to Jake." So it was the craziest, weirdest dream. And after I got done laughing about it, I realized this might make a really good story. So I turned it into a story.
So you just started writing.
It took me about 3 weeks after, and everything. I had the story written and proofread it and everything, sent it off, and it was in the process of getting published.
That fast?
Hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen very often.
No, it was one of those things that was, I had, if I have an idea that I really kind of want to run with, I'll typically just run through it and get it started and taken care of and finished.
Well, how does the story go?
So, of course, it's about a seal named Kingston and just talks about, his life living with his friend Jake and everything. Jake is a teacher. And in this particular story, Kingston gets to go with Jake to his school and he gets to meet Jake's students. And, he ends up making a lot of new friends that day. So you're introduced to two of his friends, Henry the Puffin and Snickers the Cat. And then in the story, Jake tells Kingston, I've got a surprise for you. We're going somewhere special and everything. So he's trying to go through his head, what could we be doing? What could we possibly be doing? And so when he finds out, Kingston is very, very excited. He decides he's going to wear his best clothes and everything, puts on a little tie, and he goes to the school and he meets a lot of Jake's students and they spend the day, reading stories, playing outside during recess, having lunch together. And then, at the end of the story, he's super excited. He's got all these new friends and everything, and he's just very excited about what he and Jake could be doing next.
Oh, do I smell a series?
Hopefully, if this is my first book, if it gets any traction at all, I've already written the second story. In my head, I would love for this to be like to promote positivity in schools. Just that idea that school can be fun. School is not this thing that you have to be afraid of. You have to like not want to go to, things like that. Which is, as a teacher, we see a lot of that nowadays. So with Jake being a teacher and everything, and then so much of Jake's teaching career kind of bleeds over into even the second story a little bit. I'm trying to promote this idea that school can be fun, that school can be a place where you can go have a good time, you can enjoy the learning process, things like that. So over the series, I'm kind of hoping to create a few stories where the kids get to learn about the world, or they get to learn about somebody who may be a little bit different from them, has a different culture, or something like that. Just things like that. I'm just trying to promote a little bit of positivity, especially around learning.
Well, I mean, clearly Jake's you, right? Jake is based on you.
Yes.
I just think it's interesting that you had this dream and you end up writing a book and, you bring Kingston in to meet your students and, he learns so much. You just mentioned you're seeing kids kind of check out, or they're just not interested in school, or what's going on?
So a lot of what we notice in schools nowadays is, the kids they are checked out of school. They are, a lot of them just go through the motions of school. And they have their phones. They nowadays in schools, they're on Chromebooks a lot. And we've just noticed how that has really affected the learning process and everything. Kids don't always want to be at school, or if they want to be at school, it's just because they want to hang out with their friends. It has nothing to do with the learning process. And this isn't all kids, but it's a good chunk of them. So my idea was to, create some stories where for younger kids, when you are just starting out in school, maybe, second, third, fourth grade, and just try to promote that positivity in school, try to promote that learning is not something to be afraid of. Learning is, a good thing. Learning can be fun.
Is it because you can go on a computer and everything is flashy and colorful and lively? Does that make it difficult for teachers?
I think so, yeah. Students are very much so used to this whole idea of instant gratification. They can go onto Google, or nowadays they can use ChatGPT or something equivalent to that, and they can get information instantly. Students nowadays, they don't really know how to struggle for information. They don't know how to always know how to research the way that, when I was a kid in the 90s, the way that we had to research. So when they have to struggle a little bit, a lot of times they just give up instantly, and they'll ask me, I can't figure this out because, they have to struggle a little bit for the information.
How did they react to your book? Were you able to read your book to them?
I haven't read it to them yet. I'm still relatively in shock that it even got published to begin with. They know that I've published a book and everything, and I'm thinking I'm going to save it for the end of the school year, and show them the book, introduce them to the book, maybe even, read them the book if we get an opportunity to do so.
Are you in a position where you could bring the kids into the library from a bunch of different classes and read your book?
Oh, most definitely. Yeah. My school is, I teach middle school, but the way that it's set up, sixth grade is the only grade in this building. So it would be very easy for me to set up something where they could go into the media center with me and I could read the book, or, at least with, half the students, or, do half one day, half the next or something.
Yeah.
That would be something that I could set up, but that would have to be like an end of the year kind of celebration kind of thing.
Do you think that's something they would get excited about?
I think definitely the students that I teach, the ones that know me. I did mention at the beginning of the year that I was doing this, and periodically I'll get a student ask me. He goes, "Well, how's your book going? How's your book going, Mr. Davis?" And so, and I've told a couple of kids, I've told them that the book's been published and everything, and I've even shown them on, where it's at online and everything. So a lot of them were really excited about that. So I think that the kids who definitely know me would be excited about that. And even the other kids, I think they would just get a kick out of the story.
Yeah. Maybe Kingston the Seal can develop an aversion to the internet and find excitement in finding information all by himself.
That's definitely an idea. And I've actually kind of thought about that myself a little bit for future stories, but that is actually an excellent idea.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I talk to so many teachers. There's so many teachers that are so creative, just like you. And they come up with all of these, ways to engage their students. And they all say the same thing. Like, it's everything you can do to keep their attention. Because everything is, like you said, it's like instant gratification. And, somewhere down the line, we're going to be lost in the woods and we're going to have to figure out how to get out without anything. There won't be any signal.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And, a lot of us, are trying to figure out ways to kind of reduce the technology in our classrooms. I've gone back and had to remove, we're not sitting on the computers as much anymore. We're going back to old school pencil and paper assignments. We're going back to having to use, articles and, our workbooks and things like that to look for information, learn how to struggle to find information.
Excellent. I look forward to speaking with you again. You are Michael Davis, author of Kingston the Seal. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
We hope you enjoyed this edition of the ReaderHouse Author Roundtable, where authors from all walks of life come together to discuss the trials, tribulations, and triumphs of publishing their books. I'm Alice Stockton Rossini. We hope to see you back here every Saturday night at 8 o'clock, or listen to our podcast anytime on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, and PodServe, just to name a few. The Author Roundtable is sponsored by ReaderHouse Online Bookstore, where independent new authors come first.